Okay, hello everyone, guys. Good evening. How are you all? Good evening, everyone. So, my name is Afreen and I welcome you all to today's session. So, today's topic of discussion is payment and collection of checks and other negotiable instruments. So, let's start. I will be just discussing the overview of the chapter related with the related questions. Okay, so first of all, if we talk about the Negotiable Instrument Act, the Negotiable Instrument Act passed in year 1881, and there are three kind of important instruments that are widely used in the commercial transaction in this act, and that is promissory note, bill of exchange, and checks, and these are called as negotiable instrument. Okay, now a check is used in day-to-day banking transactions. Okay, check is what you all know, and in this chapter we are going to discuss the three important things, that is first is promissory note, second is bill of exchange, the difference between these two, and the checks. Now let's start with discussing the check. Check is a kind of bill of exchange. Okay, you all know about the check. Check is a kind of a bill of exchange that is actually drawn on a specified banker and not expressed and payable otherwise than on demand. Okay, so check is what? Check, there is a drawer, there is a drawee. The drawer who actually make the check. Okay, the drawee to whom name the check is actually made. Okay, so it is a bill of exchange which is payable on demand or payable under the demand. It contains the instruction in writing by the account holder to his bank. Means, for example, if I am drawing a check, so I instruct my bank to deduct certain amount of money from my account and to deposit it in the counterparty's account. This is known as the check. Check is drawn in the check in the electronic form. It is drawn in the electronic form by using any computer resource and signed in a with a digital signature. So nowadays there are digital checks also, and digital checks are what? Digital checks are those checks which are actually assigned digitally, and there are digital signature which is used on the digital check. Now truncated check truncation system is what? Check truncation system is actually to avoid the physical movement of the check. Means when there is an elimination of the physical movement of the check, and this physical movement of check is actually converted into the electronic image. Means this involves the capturing of the electronic image of the check, and then transferring it to the paying bank for the clearance. So it actually eliminates the physical movement of the check, that is known as the check truncation. So in check, first of all, what is a check? It is a type of bill of exchange. It is actually an instruction that is given by the account holder to his bank to deduct certain amount of money from his or her account and to deposit it in the drawee account. So there is a drawee and there is a drawer in the case of the check. Okay, now next is a promissory note. Now what is a promissory note? Promissory note is an instrument in writing, not being a bank note or currency note. First of all, a promissory note is not a type of bank note, or it is not a type of currency note. A promissory note is instrument in the writing which contain an unconditional undertaking. First of all, the conditions, these are not the conditional, well, these are the unconditional undertaking signed by the maker to pay a certain amount of money on the order to the bearer of that instrument. For example, if these are the two parties which are involved in the promissory note. Now, I will be giving you the example of the promissory note. In the promissory note, there is a maker, or which is also known as payer, means the person who makes the note and promise to pay. So there is a promissory note which defines the liability of the maker. The maker of the promissory note, via this promissory note, what assign or promise to pay the pay a certain amount of money. This is known as a promissory note. For example, I am issuing a promissory note in favor of you. It means that I am the maker or the payer of that promissory note, and via this promissory note, I am promising you pay a certain amount of money at a certain or a specific date, and this is an unconditional undertaking. So this is known as a promissory note. And in this situation, because I am promising you, so I am the payer and you are receiving the payment, and that's why you are the payee. Okay. Now next, if we talk about the examples, if we talk about the illustrations, first of all, if these are five statements, now can we select one, or can we select the correct statement which actually represent a promissory note? First of all, if we talk about the first statement, promise to pay B or order rupees 500. I acknowledge myself to be indebted to B in rupees 1000 to be paid on demand for the value received. So these two actually represent a promissory note, because these two contain a promise to pay, and this is unconditional, where there is one payer, there is one payer, and there is one pay. There is a specific amount which is actually need to pay from the payer to pay. But if we talk about third, Mr. B, I owe you rupees 1000. This is not a clear undertaking of the indebtedness. Okay, next, I promised pay B rupees 500 and all other sum which shall be due to him. This also contains conditions, and that's why promissory note are unconditional. Always remember, promissory notes are unconditional. So this is not a promissory note, this is not, and even this is not a promissory note, because if only this has been written, it is good. But first deducting there out, this is actually wrong. Okay. So always remember the correct statement. Okay. First and second is the correct or the perfect example of the promissory note. Why? Because they represent the indebtedness, they represent a promise, there is a payer and payee, and the offer is unconditional. Now this is known as the promissory note. Now next, if we talk about the bill of exchange, there is a difference between promissory note and there is a difference between bill and exchange and promissory note. First of all, bill of exchange. There are three parties which are involved in a bill of exchange. There is a drawer, which is the seller also, or you can say the creditor also. The drawer is the person who gives the order to pay or who actually makes the bill. Okay. The drawer who actually gives the order to pay or who actually makes the bill. Next, drawee, who is the buyer or you can say debtor, the person who is directed to pay, and the payee is the person to whom the payment is to be made. Okay, so this can be a third party. So these are three persons which is involved in a bill of exchange. Now I'm explaining you bill of exchange with an example. Okay, there is an ABC Limited and there is an XYZ Limited. Okay, now ABC Limited has given or sell some goods to XYZ Limited. Now ABC Limited is a seller and XYZ Limited is the buyer. Now technically the buyer has to pay ABC Limited, but instead of this immediate payment, actually ABC offer some credit limit to XYZ. You can say ABC deliver or sell the goods in favor of the credit. Okay. Instead of receiving the payment, seller is offering some time that, okay, you will give me money or after this certain time. So this time period is given as the credit time period. Now what? Now to just formalize this transaction, ABC Limited draws a bill of exchange. ABC Limited what makes a bill of exchange which says that XYZ is responsible for paying ABC Limited a certain amount of money at certain date. So this is known as the bill of exchange, where the bill of exchange is actually made by the seller. Okay, and that seller is saying that this person is responsible for paying me a certain amount of money after this in this time period. So this is the buyer, or you can say this is the payee. Sorry, this is the payee as well as this is the drawee. In this condition, this XYZ Limited is acting as a payee as well as this acting as a draw. Okay, sorry, 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 just sorry. Hmm. I'm so sorry. Okay, now in this, sorry. Now, in this condition, because the XYZ is promising to pay ABC, okay, because XYZ accepted, okay, I am indebted to of rupees this and this amount, and I will responsible to pay ABC Limited this sum of money. Now, because XYZ is the buyer and he is considered as the drawee in this case, drawee, the person who is actually directed to pay. So, XYZ has been directed to pay by ABC Limited. And who is receiving the payment? ABC is Limited is receiving the payment. So ABC Limited is the drawer, and he is also considered as the payee in this case. For example, there can be this situation also. For example, ABC Limited had sold some good to XYZ. Now, instead of receiving immediate cash, ABC Limited had given a time period that, okay, XYZ will be paying me this and this amount of money after this time period. And XYZ accepted it. Now, ABC Limited endorsed this bill of exchange to me, for example, Afreen. Now, in this case, I am to receive the payment, means I am the payee. The maker of the bill of exchange is ABC Limited, the seller, and the person who is actually directed to pay is the XYZ Limited. Now, in this case, payee means me and the drawer. They both are different. In some cases, the payee as well as the drawer can be same in the bill of exchange. So, promissory note is actually made by the debtor. For example, I am buying something from you. So if I promise you pay a certain amount of money after a certain time period, this is known as a promissory note. Promissory note is a note which represents the indebtedness of the debtor and is made by the debtor. Okay. Now, bill of exchange is different. Remember, bill of exchange is made by the seller. A seller is assuring the creditness in the form of the agreement. A seller saying that, okay, this buyer is responsible for paying me certain sum of money after this time period. So this is known as a bill of exchange. Bill of exchange is actually made by the creditor, or you can say seller, which is also known as the drawer. And it is drawn upon the buyer, who is also the debtor and the drawee. And there can be a third party also, which is known as payee. Payee and the drawer can be same on some time or can be different also. Okay. Now, what is difference between these two? Okay. So, different between the promissory note and the bill of exchange is, first of all, sorry, promissory note, there are only two parties. First, who is promising to pay means the payer, the debtor, and one who is actually receiving, that is pay. But there are three parties in the bill of exchange: drawer, drawee, and pay. Maker cannot be the pay. Here, the maker is not the pay, cannot be the pay. But here, drawer and pay are the same. Sometimes they can be same, sometimes they can be different. I have already explained you with example. Here there is a promise to make payment. Here there is an order for making the payment. Here no acceptance is required. Here acceptance is required. Why? Because it is drawn by the drawer, seller, and the buyer need to accept that, okay, I am indebted of in this amount. So this is the acceptance is compulsory in bill of exchange. Lastly, the liability of the maker is primary and absolute, where the liability of the drawer is secondary and unconditional. Okay, so this is the difference between bill of exchange and promissory note. Okay, done, clear? So this is the complete session. I hope that you have all enjoyed this session. So in this session, I have discussed only some amount, some important thing, that is check, bill of exchange and promissory note. A very important bill of exchange and promissory note. Bill of exchange is drawn by the seller and the buyer need to accept it. It is drawn by the creditor and the debtor need to accept it. Whereas the promissory note, it is what promissory note is made by the debtor. It is a promise to pay to the creditor. There no acceptance is needed. Here the acceptance is needed. Okay, so thank you so much for joining this session. That if you have liked the session, guys, if you have liked the session, just please share and like the video. Okay, and if you haven't subscribed this channel yet, guys, please subscribe the channel and press the bell notification icon. Thank you so much. Bye bye, take care, guys. Bye everyone, take care.